T-H-E-P-L-N-B. It's not the plan that fails, it's the person who refuses to pivot. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me closely. Life doesn't always go according to plan A. Sometimes you give it everything, you invest your time, your energy, your soul, and yet, boom, it crumbles. But here's the true thing, your power is not in the plan, it's in your ability to respond. Plan B is not a backup, it's not second best. It's the rebirth of your strategy, born through pain, wisdom, and vision. Today, I want to talk to the warriors who were knocked down, who thought they lost everything. This is your moment. This is where you pivot, rewire, and rise. Let's go to work. Accept that plan AI is dead. And that's okay. There comes a moment in every person's life when they have to stare reality in the face and admit something deeply painful. Plan A didn't work. It could have been a dream career, a relationship you poured your soul into, a business you built from scratch, or a life direction you were absolutely convinced was your destiny. And when it crashes, when it falls apart, it doesn't just disappoint you, break something in you, you question your decisions, your worth, your identity. You mourn not just what you lost, but the version of yourself that lived in that plan. But here's the truth you have to tattoo on your soul. Just because plan A died doesn't mean you are dead. The end of plan A is not your ending. It's a turning point, a chance to reset, realign, and reinvent. And that process begins not with action, but with acceptance. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is strength. It's ownership. It's standing in the rubble of your failed plan, shoulders back, eyes forward, and saying, this didn't go how I expected, but I'm still here, and I still get to choose what happens next. Let's be clear. Accepting the death of plan A doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you've reached the emotional maturity to understand that your future is more valuable than your fantasy. It means you're ready to stop resisting what is and start building what could be. 3 Ps that make, and the longer you fight the truth, the longer you stay stuck, because you can't build something new while clinging to something that's gone. People spend years in a mental prison because they refuse to accept that their original plan is over. They keep trying to resurrect something that no longer serves them. They pour energy into fixing what's not meant to be fixed instead of creating something greater from the ashes. You have to decide, will you live in denial or will you live in power? Will you keep asking, why did this happen to me? Or will you rise and declare, this happened for me? See, plan A served a purpose. It got you moving. It gave you a vision. It showed you what you thought you wanted. And maybe it was necessary. Maybe you needed to go through that journey to find the cracks in your foundation. Maybe you had to hit the wall so you could finally discover who you really are without the mask, without the titles, without the script you were given by society. Plan A was your initiation, but Plan B is your liberation. It's time to mourn Plan A, but not to worship it. Stop making an idol out of your old plan. You're not betraying your dream by letting go. You're honoring it by choosing progress over perfection. And when you accept that it's gone, really gone, something powerful happens. You get your energy back. You stop living in regret. In what ifs, in fantasy, you step into the present moment, and that's where all your power lies. This is where the fire begins to return. Not because everything is fixed, but because you're no longer chained to what broke. And I get it. Acceptance hurts. You'll have days when you miss the old dream, when your heart aches for what could have been. That's normal. But don't stay there. Feel it, acknowledge it, and then move. Because your destiny is not behind you. It's ahead of you. It's not in what you lost. It's in what you're about to create. You are not the failure. You are the fighter, the learner, the rebuilder, the phoenix. And accepting the death of Plan A isn't giving up. It's rising up. It's choosing to say, I am not defined by what didn't work. I am defined by how I rise. So burn the guilt, bury the fantasy, break the illusion, and breathe in the truthing Plan A is over. And that's okay, because this is where your real story begins. Rewire your identity for Plan B the moment you accept that Plan A is no longer your path. You stand at the edge of transformation, but here's where most people fall back into the same patterns. They carry their old identity into a new direction. That's like trying to run a brand new operating system on a computer still wired with outdated hardware. If Plan B is going to work, really work, it has to begin not with external strategy, but with internal identity, because you don't get the life you want. You get the life that matches your identity. Think about it. Your actions are driven by how you see yourself. If you still see yourself as the person who failed, the person who messed up Plan A, the person who wasn't good enough, then no matter how new your plan is, you'll keep repeating the same emotional patterns. You'll self-sabotage, you'll hesitate, you'll look for validation instead of stepping into conviction. So this next step is brutal, but beautiful. It's time to rewire your identity. That means you stop identifying with the past. You are not your failure. You are not your divorce. P's that make. You are not your business going bankrupt. You aren't your broken dream. Those things happen to you, but they are not you. Too often we tie our identity to our outcomes. We believe the lie that says, If I succeed, I'm valuable. If I fail, I'm worthless. That lie keeps people trapped in guilt, shame, and low self-worth long after the event is over. And plan B cannot survive in that. So what does it mean to rewire your identity? It means you start creating a new inner blueprint. You begin speaking about yourself in alignment with your future, not your past. You stop saying things like, I'm not good at this, or that's just not who I am, or I've never done that before. Of course you haven't. You're creating a new you that make. Stop waiting for evidence and start being the evidence. Identity is not found, it's forged. You're not the person who tried and failed. You're the person who learned and evolved. You're not the person who lost. You're the person who got up. That shift changes how you walk, how you talk, how you show up. You go from surviving to leading. From doubting to deciding, from reacting to creating. Because when your identity shifts, your standards shift. And your standards shape your destiny. Rewiring your identity also means getting intentional about who you let speak into your life. If you're surrounding yourself with people who only knew you as the plan A version of yourself, the version that played small, that feared risk, that compromised constantly, then their expectations will keep pulling you back. Sometimes to step into plan B, you have to outgrow your circle, and that's hard, but necessary because your new identity needs new reinforcement. Not people who remind you of who you were, but people who call out who you're becoming. It's also about the small decisions. INPEs, the identity isn't the built-in declarations, it's built in discipline. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're casting a vote for your new identity. Every time you do the hard thing instead of the easy thing, you're strengthening the new wiring in your brain. Neuroplasticity is real. Your brain literally reshapes based on the behaviors you repeat. You don't need 20 years to become a new person. You need a decision repeated consistently. Every time you show up for your new identity, your brain says, oh, this is who we are now. And plan B doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs a present version of you, a version that's committed to growth, a version that's no longer married to who you were, but is fully engaged in who you're becoming. You have to be bold enough to say, that chapter is done. That version of me is gone. I am not negotiating with my past. I am creating my future. And let's be real. There will be days when the old identity whispers, days when imposter syndrome tries to sit at your table, when fear tries to shake your hand and drag you back. But you'll look it in the eye and say, not today, that's not who I am anymore, because this new version of you is wired for resilience, wired for reinvention, wired for impact, and no one gets to define you but you. Rewiring your identity isn't a one-time moment, it's a daily mission, 1,000 choices, 1,000 shifts. But when you commit to it, when you step into the version of you that plan B requires, that's when momentum shows up. That's when things start moving. Because the moment you shift your identity is the moment you shift your destiny. Build relentless clarity around what you want now. Once you've buried plan A and begun rewiring your identity, you enter a space that most people avoid, the uncertain, uncomfortable middle. This is where confusion tries to sneak in and paralyze you. This is where people drift. They bounce from idea to idea, strategy to strategy, chasing anything that feels like progress without really knowing where they're going. But drifting is not destiny. Clarity is. If you want plan B to take off, if you want to rise from the ashes of disappointment and build something unstoppable, you need to create relentless clarity around what you want now. Not what you wanted 5 years ago, not what you think you're supposed to want, what your parents, partner, or peers told you to want. What you want now. Because here's the truth. Plan might have been someone else's dream that you inherited. It might have been built on validation, fear, ego, or expectations. But plan B, that has to come from truth. It has to be born from your core. And you can't build truth if you're still lying to yourself about what actually matters. So take a moment to ask the hard questions. What do I really want? Who do I want to be in this next season of my life? What would make me feel proud? Not in someone else's eyes, but in my own. These aren't quick questions with instant answers. They're questions that pull your soul forward. You need to sit with them, journal on them, pray over them, meditate on them. And when the answers come, don't filter them through fear. Don't shrink them down to what's realistic. Clarity is not about what's easy, it's about what's true. People often confuse being busy with being clear. They hustle from task to task. These are the 3P, fill their calendar, but have no idea why they're doing any of it. That's not clarity, that's noise, and noise kills vision. You want to know why plan A failed? It wasn't just the strategy. It was the lack of emotional alignment. You were probably chasing something that didn't light your fire anymore, or maybe it never did. So plan B has to be different. It has to be laser focused, not scattered, not vague. You've got to define the target so clearly that when you close your eyes, you can see it, feel it, smell it. Clarity creates power. Power to say no to distractions. Power to ignore comparison. Power to withstand obstacles because you know why you're doing this. You're not just working hard, you're working with purpose. You're not just surviving, you're creating. And that kind of direction fuels your discipline, because when you have clarity, you stop negotiating with excuses. You stop chasing random results and start engineering specific ones. Clarity is also about precision, not just I want more money, but how much and why, not just I want to be successful, but what does success look like for me specifically in this season? Is it peace? Is it impact? Is it freedom? You have to break it down. The more specific you get, the more magnetic your focus becomes. Vague goals produce vague results, but when you narrow the vision, you amplify your force. Now, let me be real with you. Clarity doesn't mean certainty. Don't wait until everything is mapped out before you move. Some people confuse clarity with guarantees. They want every detail figured out, every step planned. But clarity isn't about knowing every step. It's about knowing your North Star. It's about saying, I may not know every move, but I know the direction. I know what matters. I know what I'm fighting for. That's enough to start. In fact, most clarity comes through movement. You gain insight by taking action, testing things, trying new paths. You don't sit in a room and wait for the perfect answer to fall out of the sky. You move forward with what you do know and let the journey reveal the rest. As you take action, feedback shows up. That feedback sharpens your clarity. So don't be afraid to begin and keep refining. And finally, clarity brings peace. When you know what you want, you stop apologizing for it. You stop chasing people who don't understand it. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't share your vision. You simply move, you build, you breathe deeper because you're no longer split inside. You've made a decision, you've picked a direction, you've chosen to own your next chapter fully and unapologetically. That's what relentless clarity does. It cuts through the noise, aligns your energy, and lights a fire inside you that doesn't flicker every time the wind blows. Plan B doesn't work with vague intention. It works when your soul knows where it's headed. And once you get clear on what you want, everything else, your habits, your circle, your actions, start falling into place with precision. Turn pain into purpose. When plan A crumbles, it rarely goes quietly. It usually crashes with disappointment, grief, regret, maybe even shame. But here's the truth: most people run from pain as a teacher, a brutal, honest, relentless teacher, but one that gives you access to power if you're willing to listen. The pain you felt from plan A failing, that wasn't pointless. That was fuel. That was data. That was a divine redirection. And now it's your responsibility to turn that pain into purpose. You see, most people try to avoid pain. They bury it. They numb it. They distract themselves. They say, I'm fine, when they're bleeding inside. But suppressed pain doesn't disappear. It leaks into your decisions. It shapes your self-worth. It clouds your judgment. And the most dangerous thing about unprocessed pain, it builds walls around your potential if you're going to build plan B. Something strong, something lasting. You have to face your pain, not run from it. Turn around, look it in the eye, Nate, own it. Because only what you face can be transformed. Pain has the potential to become your greatest platform. It contains the wisdom that plan A didn't teach you. It carries the lessons that will make you wiser, stronger, sharper. It holds the emotional leverage that will drive you further than comfort ever could. Think of the most powerful people you know. The ones who inspire you, the ones who lead movements, start revolutions, build empires. 9 times out of 10, you'll find a deep well of pain underneath their purpose. They lost something. They were betrayed. They were dismissed, doubted, abandoned. But instead of staying stuck in the wound, they turned it into a weapon. They didn't let the pain break them. They let it build them. That's your job now. Take what hurt you and use it to help someone else. Take what almost destroyed you and let it become the reason you show up stronger. That failed business, it taught you what not to do. That relationship that fell apart, it taught you what kind of love you'll never settle for again. That moment when everyone doubted you, it lit a fire that can now fuel your rise. The pain isn't your enemy, it's your edge. You've got to stop seeing your scars as signs of weakness. They're not. They're evidence that you fought battles and survived. You didn't quit. You're still here. That pain didn't get the final word. You did. And when you stop hiding it, when you start telling the truth about where you've been, your story becomes a torch for someone else who's still stuck in the dark. That's how pain becomes purpose. When it stops being about you and starts becoming a gift for the world. But listen, this isn't about glorifying suffering. It's not about staying in the pain. It's about transforming it, feeling it fully so you can free yourself from it, not wallowing, but witnessing. You give it a name, you give it space, and then you give it a job. You assign your pain a mission. You say, you don't own me anymore. You work for me now. That's power. Purpose isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build brick by brick from the ashes of what you thought would break you. You don't wait for a calling. You create it out of the mess, out of the breakdown, out of the silence. You look at what hurt the most and ask, how can I use this? Not why me, but what now? Because as long as you stay in, why me, you stay a victim. But the moment you shift to what now, you step into power. You stop being the one who was hurt and you become the one who heals. So take that heartbreak, that bankruptcy, rejection, that burnout, and convert it. Let it be the reason you write the book, to start the business, mentor the kid who feels lost. Let it be the spark behind your new discipline, your new voice, your new mission. There are people waiting on the other side of your pain, people who need your perspective, your story, your strength, but they'll never receive it if you stay silent. This is the moment. This is the turning point, when everything is fixed, not when everything is clear, but when you decide that pain doesn't get to define you, it gets to drive you. This is where Plan B starts to become something powerful, something unstoppable, when it's built not just from hope, but from heartbreak, not just from dreams, but from determination, not just from strategy, but from soul. Your pain has a purpose. It's time you let it rise. Master the power of daily rituals. If you're going to build a new life with Plan B, you need more than a dream. You need structure. Not the kind that feels like a prison, but the kind that gives you momentum, discipline, and the edge to dominate your day before the day dominates you. That kind of structure comes from one thing: rituals. Daily rituals are not about doing random things to feel productive. They are about programming your identity, controlling your focus, and setting the emotional tone for everything you touch. Because let's be honest, when planet collapses, the aftermath is chaos. Your confidence is rattled, your habits slip. You wake up and your mind is filled with doubt, distractions, and emotional residue. That's why you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If your daily habits don't support your next chapter, then Plan B will just be Plan A in disguising another cycle of burnout, confusion, or disappointment. You want to break that cycle, you have to master your rituals. Start with your mornings. The first hour of your day is sacred. It's when you either program your mind to lead or surrender it to the noise. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, check the news, scroll through other people's lives, then you're outsourcing your mindset to chaos. But when you begin day with intention, when you move your body, feed your mind, align your emotions, you start stacking wins before the world throws its first punch. That's power, that's alignment. That's how high performers set the tone. Your rituals don't need to be complicated. In fact, the simpler they are, the more sustainable they become. What matters is that they are consistent and connected to your deeper purpose. Read something that stretches you. Move your body to create energy. Sit in stillness or prayer to reset your nervous system. Speak affirmations that remind you who you are, not who you were when you failed. These are not just tasks. They are declarations. Each one tells your brain, this is who I am now. This is where I'm going. But it's not just about mornings. You need rituals in the middle of chaos too, when stress hits, when your doubts creep in, when your old patterns beg you to go back to comfort. In those moments, rituals become anchors. Maybe it's breath work. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk to reset your mind. Maybe it's writing down one thing you're grateful for when everything feels like it's falling apart. These tiny rituals recalibrate your state, and your state controls your fate. Rituals also protect your focus. In a world that's screaming for your attention 47, discipline is a superpower. If you don't guard your focus, someone else will claim it. And without focus, you can't build. You can't heal. You can't create momentum. That's why successful people automate their disciplines. They don't negotiate with their rituals. They execute them, whether they feel like it or not. Because motivation comes and goes, but rituals build the identity of someone who shows up consistently. One of the most life-changing shifts you can make is to stop relying on emotion and start relying on ritual. Your emotions are unpredictable. Some days you'll wake up inspired. Other days you'll feel heavy, scattered, or lost. But if you've built rituals that you don't break, you'll move forward anyway. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs wait for inspiration. Professionals create it through repetition. And let me tell you something critical. Rituals are how you rebuild trust with yourself. After a failure, one of the most painful things isn't what other people think. It's that quiet voice inside you that says, can I even rely on me anymore? You rebuild that trust one ritual at a time. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you prove to your brain, I follow through now. I'm not who I used to be. I don't break when life gets hard. I lock in. Over time, these small daily rituals compound. They create mental toughness. They build emotional resilience. They give you control in a world full of uncertainty. You're not waiting for the right time or the right energy or the right mood. You're becoming the kind of person who moves anyway. The kind of person who doesn't need perfect conditions to grow. The kind of person who creates structure in the storm. So if you want Plan B to succeed, it won't happen by accident. It will happen because you outperformed your old patterns with new rituals, because you woke up every day and invested in your mind, your body, and your spirit. Because you didn't treat your success like a lottery, you treated it like a responsibility. Rituals are the blueprint. They are the daily bricks that build your new identity, your new results, and your new reality. Master them, and you won't just survive the loss of plan A, you'll dominate plan B, build relentless inner certainty when everything outside of you is shaking, when plan A has shattered, when people stop believing in your vision. What's left? What holds you up when the applause is gone and no one's watching? The answer is inner certainty. That's the force, the fire, the steel inside your spirit that says, even if the world doubts me, I will not doubt myself. Inner certainty is not arrogance, it's not fake confidence or empty ego. It's a deep, unshakable belief in who you are becoming, regardless of how things look on the outside. You see, most people only believe in themselves when things are going right, when the business is growing, when the relationship is thriving, when they're being praised, promoted, like validated. But when things fall apart, when the storm comes, when the mirror of life no longer reflects success, that's when their belief crumbles. Why? Because they built their identity on outcomes, and outcomes change. But inner certainty, that comes from something deeper. That comes from building your foundation on values, on truth, on the rock-solid decision that you are more than your results. Let me tell you something you need to tattoo on your mind. Results do not define you. Your response does. Life will test you. It will throw curveballs, closed doors, betrayals, rejections, and redirections. But if your certainty is rooted in something bigger than what's happened to be shaken, you won't be sharpened. That's the power of inner certainty. It doesn't need evidence to start. It creates evidence by moving forward with conviction. Now, building that kind of belief is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. It's choosing again and again to feed the voice inside that lifts you, not the one that limits you. It's about managing your state, because your emotional state determines your story, and your story shapes your strategy. If you wake up every day telling yourself, I'm not enough, or it's too late, or I've failed too many times, then no plan, no strategy, no opportunity will save you. You'll sabotage everything, not because you can't, because you don't believe you can. So how do you build inner certainty? You can do it just like a muscle. You put in the reps. You speak life over yourself even when you don't feel it. You take action even when doubt whispers in your ear. You surround yourself with environments that reflect your future, not your past. You cut out the noise, the gossip, the comparison, the constant seeking of external validation. You learn to validate yourself. You learn to look in the mirror and say, you've got this, even when the world says you don't. A certainty comes from knowing your why. When your mission becomes non-negotiable, when you decide that your purpose is bigger than your pain, you walk differently. You don't fold under pressure. You don't chase people for approval. You move with authority because you know who you are and whose you are. You've looked at your scars and said, the 3 Ps that make. These don't make me weak. They make me unstoppable. You've seen yourself survive what others thought would kill you. That's not just survival. That's evidence that you are built for more. Here's the truth. No one is coming to hand you inner certainty. It's not gift-forged in the dark, in the silence, in the lonely moments when you have to be your own motivation, when you have to become your own coach, your own cheerleader, your own believer. When you do that, when you choose to believe in yourself consistently, you become magnetic. You stop chasing opportunities and they start chasing you, because the world recognizes someone who knows who they are. Don't wait for clarity to feel certain. That's backwards. Certainty creates clarity. Most people want a perfect plan before they move, but certainty says, I'll figure it out as I go. I trust myself to navigate. I may not know the whole path, but I know the next step, and that's enough. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. That's how you take ownership of plan B, not as a backup, but as a new standard. And when you build this kind of belief, guess what happens? You stop fearing failure because you no longer tie your worth to what works or what doesn't. You start seeing setbacks as setups. You start embracing rejection as redirection. You stop getting rattled by people who don't get your vision. Why? Because your certainty is internal, it's unshakable, it's bulletproof, and that's exactly what Plan B needs. A leader who knows who they are, without applause, progress, or validation. Inner certainty is the anchor, it's the engine, it's the reason some people bounce back while others break. You want to rise from the ashes of Plan A? Then don't just upgrade your skills, upgrade your belief, upgrade your identity, upgrade your certainty. Because when you believe in yourself relentlessly, you become unstoppable. You don't chase Plan B, you command it. Turn pain into purpose. Pain is not the end. It's not a stop sign. It's not the final chapter. Pain is a signal. It's a messenger. And if you're willing to listen, truly listen, it can become your most powerful teacher. Most people run from pain. They bury it, avoid it, numb it with distraction, consumption, denial. But here's the truth. No one tells your Plan B will never take off until you face your pain head on and turn it into fuel. Because that pain you feel, that heartbreak, that failure, the disappointment, it's a gift. It carries wisdom, direction, and purpose, but only if you're courageous enough to extract it. When Plan A collapses, When your business fails, your relationship ends, or your dream doesn't unfold the way you hoped. It hurts, and you have every right to feel that pain, but you do not have the right to stay in it forever. Pain is a visitor, not a roommate. It comes to refine you, not define you. What separates the people who rise from the people who stay stuck is what they do with that pain. Will you let it break you or build you? See, pain creates a crossroads. You can either let it become your excuse or your evolution. That's where purpose is born, not in the comfort, not in the applause, but in the suffering that cracks you open and forces you to ask the deeper questions. Why did this happen? What is this trying to teach me? Who do I need to become because of this? These questions are painful, but they are also the beginning of transformation, and transformation always precedes elevation. Let me tell you something I've seen in every comeback story. Every champion, every world changer I've worked with, they use their pain as fuel. They didn't numb it or run from it. They got in the ring with it. They wrestled with it until it gave up its treasure. That's what you need to do, because your story, your real story, is not about what broke you. It's about how you responded to what broke you. And when you respond with ownership, with courage, your pain becomes your platform. It becomes your message. It becomes the evidence of your strength. Some of the most powerful businesses, movements, books, and missions on this planet were born from pain. Someone went through something so difficult, so life-altering, that they had to share the wisdom that came from it. That's how purpose is born. It's not just about doing what you love. It's about doing what you must, because your experience has given you insight that the world desperately needs. Your pain, when healed and understood, becomes someone else's survival guide. But you can't turn pain into purpose unless you own it. You can't pretending everything's fine. You can't keep blaming others. You can't keep recycling the same story of victimhood. You've got to look in the mirror and say, yes, that hurt. Yes, it shook me, but I'm not staying there. I'm going to use this to rise. That decision is the moment when Plan B starts to breathe. Because now it's not just about proving something. It's not about escaping failure. It's about becoming who you were meant to be. And when you start living from that place, something shifts. You start to attract different people. You speak with more clarity. You walk with more strength, because you're no longer pretending, you're living your truth. And truth has a frequency that cuts through noise. People feel it, they connect with it, and they follow it. That's what makes your story powerful. It's not perfect, it's real. And realness is rare in a world full of masks. So whatever pain you're carrying right now, don't waste it. Don't minimize it. Go deep into it. Ask what it came to teach you. Let it shape your character. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it humble you. Let it stretch your empathy, because when you understand your pain, you gain the ability to lead with heart. And the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs leaders with heart, people who've been through hell but refuse to let it define them. That's you. That's who you're becoming. You didn't choose the pain, but you get to choose what it becomes. It can be your prison, or it can be your purpose. It can bury you, or it can build you. And when you decide to rise, when you choose to turn your struggle into service, your Plan B won't just be a fallback. It'll be a comeback, a mission, a movement, a legacy, all because you were willing to take your pain and say, this is not the end, this is where I begin again. Stronger, wiser, bolder, unstoppable. Uncreate a daily ritual of power if you build a Plan B that doesn't just survive but thrives. If you want to rewrite your story after the storm, the chaos, the collapse, you cannot rely on random bursts of motivation. You need rhythm. You need structure. You need to create what I call a daily ritual of power, a consistent set of actions, behaviors, and emotional habits that keep you in peak state regardless of what's happening around you. Because success doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from what you do every day when no one's watching. Let's be honest. Most people lose themselves not because they don't have dreams, because they don't have discipline. They wake up and immediately check their phone, plug into other people's priorities, and let life dictate their emotions. There's no strategy their day, and without strategy, chaos wins. Your external world will always reflect the level of order in your internal world. So if you want to lead your life instead of reacting to it, you must begin with rituals. Small, intentional actions that align your mind, body, and spirit with your highest vision. A powerful daily ritual is not about perfection or productivity hacks. It's about alignment. It's about reminding yourself every morning, who am I? What am I building? Why does it matter? That's how you start activating the version of you that your Plan B requires. Because the person who failed with Plan A is not the same person who will succeed with Plan B. Plan B is not just a different path, it requires a different you. And rituals are how you shape that version day by day. Think of it like this: you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. You can have all the ambition in the world, but if your habits are sloppy, if you're feeding your mind with negativity, neglecting your body, ignoring your soul, you're not going anywhere. You'll keep spinning in the same cycles of burnout and self-doubt. That's why a daily ritual is non-negotiable. It grounds you, it builds momentum, it creates identity. Now here's the key: your ritual must be yours, not someone else's idea of success, not a borrowed routine from a billionaire on Instagram. It must reflect what you need to feel powerful, clear, and aligned. For some, it's an hour of exercise, prayer, and journaling. For others, it's meditation, hydration, visualization, and a power walk while listening to their goals. The actions themselves matter less than the intention behind them. The ritual is about declaring, I control my state, I decide how I show up, I don't wait for conditions to be perfect, I create my own weather. You see, when you condition yourself daily, you don't need motivation. You become your own generator. That's how high performers win, not because they're always inspired, but because they've trained themselves to act in alignment with their values no matter how they feel. And that consistency compounds over weeks, over months, over years. Suddenly, you look up and realize you've transformed, not because of one massive shift, but because of 1,000 micro decisions that shaped your identity. And let me be clear, ritual is what rescues you when the world gets loud, when fear creeps in, when doubt whispers, when the economy crashes or people turn their backs or your plans get delayed again. It's your ritual that pulls you back into focus. It's your ritual that reminds you, I've been here before, I know who I am, I've trained for this. That's the edge. That's what separates those who collapse under pressure from those who rise through it. When you create a daily ritual of power, you stop being reactive. You stop being a victim of circumstance. You start living with intention. You start building momentum. You develop emotional resilience. You build certainty, not based on outcomes, but on effort. You don't control everything that happens in life, but you do control how you prepare for it. When you stack enough days of intentional preparation, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. This isn't theory, it's neuroscience. Your brain wires itself according to what you repeat. Every time you step into your ritual, you're not just going through motions, you're reinforcing your future. You're telling your mind, this is who I am now, and your mind starts to believe it. Confidence grows, clarity increases, energy rises, and suddenly, you're no longer waiting for the right time, you're creating the right time every single day. Plan B requires a new standard. It requires that you stop showing up like the version of you who settled, delayed, or waited. And your ritual is how you prove to yourself day by day that the old version of you is gone. You are not here to survive, you're here to dominate. And it starts not with a lucky break or a perfect plan, but with a simple, sacred commitment to rise every day and own your power before the world even has a chance to challenge it. That's the edge. That's the advantage. That's how legends are made. Build unshackable belief in yourself. Nothing in life changes permanently until your belief system changes. You can create the most detailed plan B, strategize every step, and surround yourself with experts. But if you don't believe in yourself at a deep emotional level, you will sabotage your success every time. This is the truth most people don't want to face. They want the tactics, the shortcuts, the blueprints, but they avoid the real worky, shifting their identity and building belief from the inside out. Belief isn't something you're born with. It's not handed to you. It's something you build brick by brick through action, through experience, and through the decision to stop letting fear be louder than your faith. Most people never step fully into plan B, not because it lacks potential, but because they don't believe they have what it takes to make it happen. They're still carrying the scars of past failures, the echoes of voices that told them they weren't enough, the pain of rejection and disappointment. That inner story becomes their ceiling. And here's the truth, you will never rise higher than the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you believe you're weak, unworthy, unlucky, or broken, you will always create results that validate that belief. But the moment you begin to rewrite that inner narrative, the moment you start saying, I am powerful, I am resourceful, I am capable of figuring it out, everything starts to change. Not overnight, but undeniably. Building belief is not about lying to yourself or faking confidence. It's about reminding yourself of the truth that's already in you, the truth that life tried to bury under layers of disappointment and fear. It's about reconnecting to your inner fire, even if it's just a spark right now, and fanning that flame every single day. And that flame grows through repetition, through small wins, through taking one step at a time even when you're afraid. Every time you take action in the face of doubt, your belief expands. You have to make belief a daily discipline. Just like you train your body, you must train your mind to believe. You do that by focusing on what's possible rather than what's missing. You do it by speaking life over your future instead of repeating the language of failure. You do it by surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to rise, who see your greatness even when you can't. Belief multiplies in the presence of faith-filled people. So guard your environment. Guard your inputs, because belief is fragile in the beginning. It needs protection, it needs nurturing. Understand this, your plan B doesn't work without bold belief. You cannot hesitate your way into success. You cannot walk on eggshells and expect to break through. You've got to step up, you've got to step in, and you've got to own the fact that you are the asset, not your job, not your plan. You are the force behind every breakthrough. And when you believe that, you stop chasing permission, you stop waiting for signs, you start creating results. Belief also comes from reflection. Look at how far you've come. You've survived things you thought would break you. You've overcome losses, betrayals, setbacks, and you're still standing. That strength is not an accident, it's evidence. Evidence that you're resilient, that you're built for more, that your current situation is not your final destination. You have to remind yourself of your own power, especially on the days you feel powerless, especially when plan B feels like a slow grind. That's when belief matters most, not when things are easy, but when everything inside you wants to quit. Another key to building unshakable belief is keeping promises to yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even if it's small, you're stacking trust. And trust is the foundation of belief. If you say you'll wake up early and you do, belief grows. If you say you'll finish the task and you follow through, belief grows. But if you keep breaking your word to yourself, your confidence crumbles. So start small, but be consistent. Show yourself you can be trusted. That's how belief becomes unshakable, not through hype, but through habit. There will always be moments when doubt creeps in. That's normal, but belief is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to move forward anyway, to anchor yourself to your vision, to hold the image of who you're becoming so strongly that no voice, no failure, no detour can shake it. That's when you become dangerous, not because everything's perfect, but because you refuse to stop. Because you've decided once and for all that you are enough, you are ready, you are becoming, and no one can take that away from you. Belief is not just a feeling, it's a choice, a commitment, a muscle. And the more you flex it, the stronger it gets. So whatever lies your past told you, whatever limits others placed on you, it's time to rewrite the script. Plan B is not a downgrade, it's your destiny in disguise. And your belief is the bridge that takes you from breakdown to breakthrough. Give it everything, no more half efforts, no more excuses. There comes a moment in every life where you have to make a decision, not a wish, not a vague hope, a decision, a declaration that you're going all in. That, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times you get knocked down, no matter how uncomfortable or unfamiliar the terrain of your plan B becomes, you will not back off. That's what this step is about. It's about full tilt commitment. No more dipping your toe in. No more showing up with half your heart. This is the season to give it everything. You have to understand something about success. Real long-term success doesn't come to the most talented or even the smartest. It comes to the most committed. The person who shows up when they don't feel like it. The person who makes progress when nobody's watching. The person who burns the bridges behind them so there's no turning back. That's who wins. Because they've got skin in the game. They're not just interested, they're invested. The world is full of people who started something, who got excited, who posted on social media about their new business, their new dream, their new plan. But excitement wears off, the initial motivation fades. What separates those who finish strong from those who fall off is not passion, it's discipline. It's the grit to stay the course. And the only way you build that is by making a decisions. I'm giving it everything. I'm not leaving anything on the table. If I fail, it won't be because I held back. It will be because I poured out everything I had, and that's the only kind of failure that turns into greatness. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being relentless. When you show up with full intensity, your plan B starts responding. You'll find opportunities that weren't there before. You'll start attracting people who want to run at your pace. The energy you put in multiplies, but if you only give 50%, you get 50% results. The truth is, most people never discover what's truly possible for them because they never go all in. They're always holding something back out of fear, out of doubt, out of habit. But if you want the kind of life that sets your soul on fire, you can't play safe, you can't tiptoe, you've got to leap. This level of commitment shows up in the smallest decisions. It's not just about the big moves. It's in waking up early when no one's watching. It's in staying late to finish the work that matters. It's in saying no to distractions, to shortcuts, to excuses. It's in saying yes to discomfort, to learning, to growth. You give it everything when you start showing up for yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Your future depends on what you do when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's uncertain. That's when champions are built. When you give it everything, people feel that. It's magnetic. They don't just hear your words, they feel your conviction. And conviction changes the game, it moves mountains, it opens doors, it creates momentum. So many people are waiting for clarity before they commit, but clarity comes after commitment. You want to know what to do next? Give it everything. You want to know how to unlock your next level? Give it everything. You want to find out who you really are? Stop holding back. Give it everything. And let's be real, it's going to be hard. You're going to have days when you feel like it's not working, when the results don't show up fast enough, when you feel invisible, exhausted, or misunderstood. But those are the moments that define you, that refine you, that build the resilience necessary to live a life most people only dream about. You either fold in those moments or you rise. And when you've made the decision to give it everything, quitting stops being an option. There is freedom on the other side of full commitment. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop wondering if you're on the right path. You know you're doing what you were born to do because you're not doing it for comfort. You're doing it for transformation, for purpose, for legacy, and that kind of fire doesn't burn out. It keeps growing. So this is it. This is your call to rise, to go all in on your plan B like it's plan A, to stop entertaining doubt and start embodying destiny. From this point forward, you hold nothing back. You love harder. You work deeper. You learn faster. You live louder. You move like a person who knows they're not promised tomorrow, and that today is the only day that counts. Because at the end of this road, when you look back, you don't want to say, I wish I had. You want to say, I did. And you want to say it with your chest out, your head high, and a heart full of fire, knowing you gave it everything. Final cal tol kalaim, you did lost play, yo you fo dio or puar. You didn't lose plan A, stop thinking like that. Stop grieving a dream that no longer fit the person you're becoming. What you thought was a loss was actually a pivot. What felt like failure was the fire forging a new path. Plan A was training. It was a necessary illusion, a step that got you moving. But it was never the final destination. The truth is, you outgrew it. You've evolved. And with that evolution comes a new mission, Plan B. Now hear me when I say this Plan B isn't a backup. It's not the consolation prize. It's not the scraps of what you hoped for. Plan B is your real power. Because Plan B is born when you've been broken, when you've been tested, when the shine of the fantasy wears off and the truth steps in. Plan B doesn't wear a cape. It wears scars. It's made of pain and perseverance. It rises from setbacks. It doesn't beg for perfection. It demands progress. And that's where your real story begins. Right here, right now, in the middle of what you didn't expect, in the wreckage of what didn't work, in the silence after the crowd stops clapping. That's where you find you, not the version that was trying to impress the world, the version that's ready to impact it, not the person trying to fit in, the person who's ready to stand out. You see, Plan B isn't for the weak. It's for the warriors. It's for the people who kept going when it stopped being easy. It's for the ones who chose growth over grief, movement over misery, purpose over perfection. You've been through enough to know that comfort doesn't change lives. Struggle does, challenge does. The breakdowns become the breakthroughs. Every disappointment, every delay, every detour, it was all refining you, reshaping you, preparing you. The world doesn't need your apology. It needs your authority. It needs you to own your story, your mistakes, your mess, and still show up with fire in your soul and strength in your step. This is your time, not next year, not when it's convenient, not when everything lines up. Now, this is the moment you stop looking back and start building forward. This is the moment you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me. The time for excuses is over. The time for doubt is done. It's time to reclaim what life tried to strip from you, your power, your focus, your identity. Because you are not your failure. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are what you decide to become right now. Plan B is about building from the ashes. It's about creating something so real, so strong, so you, that no one can take it from you. It's not about revenge. It's about rebirth. It's about finally waking up and realizing, I've got what it takes. Even if you're scared, even if you're unsure, even if you're still healing, you don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need a reason, and you already have one. Your legacy, your next level. You've been underestimated, you've been counted out, but none of that matters, because the only thing that counts is what you choose to do now. Will you rise or retreat? Will you build or break? Will you answer the call or keep hitting snooze on your potential? The world isn't looking for flawless people. It's looking for real ones. People who have failed and kept going. People who were rejected but kept believing. People who've seen hell and still reach for heaven. That's who shakes the world. That's who becomes unforgettable. So this is it. No more waiting. No more wondering. No more wasting time trying to rewrite the past. Let the past be your teacher, not your prison. Let Plan B be your revolution. Own it. Speak it. Walk in it. You've got something the world hasn't seen yet, and it's about time you showed up and unleashed it. Don't apologize for the struggle. Let it fuel you. Don't bury your fire, fan it, turn your breakdown into your platform. Turn your pain into your purpose. Turn your someday into today. This is your call to action. Get up, lock in, push forward like your life depends on it. because it does. And on the other side of that commitment is a life you've never even imagined. One that was always meant for you. One that was waiting for you to let go of the fantasy and step into the fire, because the world doesn't need your comfort, it needs your comeback. And this, right now, is the beginning of it. Let's go.